characters that we see on a regular basis, individual descriptive names to go with it. So just in case you're now wondering what are the names of the Birminghams, this one we're looking at is Mfumo. He is the one that has the big gash on the side of his face. And then we've also got Tinyo, which means tooth. And he's laying in the distance. You can see him over there, and that's because he got into a fight and he had a big cut on his lip which exposed one of his canines, and you can still see it every now and then, but it's being hidden by a tree. And then of course we've got Nena, which means warrior. And he is a beautiful lion. He's possibly my favorite. He's got a little equal sign on his nose, and he's sort of, other than that, he's unscathed. He's quite a good-looking lion. And then, of course, Nsuku, which means gold, which seems to be the oldest of the Birminghams. And he has got a lovely golden eyes and lovely golden coat to go with that. Obviously, we can't give him the name Nsuku Gold because of his mane, because we know that as these Birminghams get a little bit older, their manes are going to go a little bit darker. So those are the individual names now of the Birminghams, but we tend to see these two that are in front of us sort of more often than the others. Occasionally, though, a few weeks ago, we had Nena coming through quite often. Now, Peggy, you're also wondering then, why don't the lionesses get names? Now, it's very difficult when it comes to trying to name the lionesses because there's normally so many of them in the pride, and it also makes it a little bit difficult because they seem to look, I think, a little bit more similar than the male lions do. So we're just going to keep them as the Nkuhumas. Obviously, amber eyes because of her unique sort of coloration in her eyes. She's quite easy to tell the difference, so we've called her amber eyes, as that's sort of stayed. But every pride of lions, excluding the males that I've come across, it's never really the girls that get a name. The Southern Pride, which I'm sure you've heard me speak about quite often, the oldest female of that pride, she's sort of lost the cartilage in one of her ears, or it seemed to have broken, or something happened to her ear, and it was flopping. She was quite easy to sort of give an identifying feature to, so they called her Mandlev, which means ear. Of course, that describes her quite nicely, but unfortunately nobody else in the pride had a name, and I think we will keep the tradition to just giving a group name to the females, and then of course giving the individual males names. Going to lie next to one of the males. And I must say, though, Mfumo, the male that we're looking at now, he is a divine male lion. Out of all the males I've ever come across in my life, he is definitely the most tolerant of the youngsters. He is particularly lovely. He doesn't mind when they tug on his mane or bite on his ears or pull his tail. He sort of just ignores them and lets them jump around, whereas Tinyo is very quick to let off a growl and swipe at the young cubs. Now, that young cub has actually picked up mange from Tinyo. You've seen he's got a little bit of a skin condition. He does seem to have a small amount of mange, and I suspect that that's exactly where that young cub has picked it up from. Well, speaking of names of the various animals, gremlins general, please don't be the gremlins that attack our vehicle. Though I doubt you are. I'm sure you are much nicer than what they are. You're wondering then, why did the Mpochos have English names versus the Birminghams who have got more traditional names? Now, we're obviously trying to change the tradition here. We want to be very respectful of the indigenous people and their cultures. So it wouldn't, don't you think, this was all their land? They were here well before the Europeans settled. I think that it's only right that we respect the local language and give the male lions descriptive names in the local language, of course. I think it's much better than English names, and this is hopefully a trend that we have started that we're going to try and keep. Just like I said, it's all really about showing some respect. And hopefully, like I said, it'll be something that continues with the new lions that are coming along. Mind Warp, it's great to be hearing from you today, asking such fantastic questions. You want to know now, with everything that we've spoken about, will the male lions from the Nkuhuma Pride, will they be called the Nkuhuma Boys, or will they be named after Djuma? Now, I'm not 100% sure. I don't want to say anything just yet. We haven't really had this discussion, and this will, of course, have to be a big group discussion as to what the young males will be called, but we don't have to worry about them just yet. They've got at least another 2 years or so to go before we even think about naming the boys. We need to see who's going to split off with who. Maybe there's not just one coalition group. Maybe we're going to have 2 different coalitions of males, and of course then we'll need to give them separate names. So that's why it's so important. But we will wait and see. Oh, we're catching a piggyback ride. A little bit difficult in the heat to try and move around and try and throw your sibling off your back. Right. And I know that Byron has been fighting off those gremlins with all his might, and his muscles have proven worthy, and he's managed to come back to us again. Let's go over and say hello.
Well, it hasn't been working, Taylor. We've had such a frustrating afternoon. We tried to go across to Arathusa. We wanted to show you there was a buffalo and it's got stuck in a dam over there, but we just don't have any comms. We've got no signal. So we're back on Djuma again. So hopefully we'll find something interesting this side. I'm sure Taylor has been keeping you entertained, and I know you've been spending time with the lions and the elephant, which is fantastic. So we'll do our best to see what else we can find for you this afternoon. Temperature feels like it's starting to cool down a little bit, which is really great. But we haven't had any sign of any animals yet. Like I said, we've just been struggling with the signal. We've been trying to get back this side as quickly as possible. So Wyatt has asked an interesting question about the water and the drought and the water situation. And Wyatt has asked, what would happen if there were no boreholes, so the water wasn't pumped up for the animals? How would they get the water, especially animals like the elephant? Well, Wyatt, I think the best explanation would be is that the animals would migrate. Looks like a Wahlberg's eagle just flying above us. It's a bit tricky to see, it's just flown over us. But so what would happen is, and many years ago, even down here in southern Africa, when it got very, very dry, the animals would move into areas where they could find water. So they'd probably move from here all the way back towards that huge mountain range, the Drakensberg mountain range. And they used to have these elephant corridors, and the elephant would migrate back towards that mountain range. There'd still be green vegetation and a bit of water back there. But obviously what's happened in the last 100 years or so, man has come in and we've set up game reserves to protect the animals from communities and that have grown throughout the areas and protect the people from the wildlife. Obviously the human population has increased drastically over the last 100 years. So what's happened is now the land has to be managed, and those water holes are then pumped, and animals would now get their water from the boreholes that the water is pumped to. Certain areas though, animals might go, and elephant do this, they'll go to the riverbeds and they'll dig for water. Usually the water table doesn't drop too far, but I think at the moment it's very, very low, so there is a serious drought. But what would happen is the elephant would dig, and they dig these really deep holes, and the water would seep through and they'd be able to drink from that. So the animals adapt depending on what conditions they are faced with. Sure, there's a very pungent smell in this area. It smells like something's died. So So that was a very strong pungent smell there. I don't see any sign of a carcass or any tracks around there. You know, with this drought, you'd often see animals dying, and you just pick up the scent and that smell a few days later, especially when it's so hot. So Kathy has asked us a question. She would like to know, oh, there's a little duiker just off to the left. Let's see if we can get it. Getting a little bit stuck. Keep going up. Don't worry, there we go. In the middle of the screen, there we go. Eggsy, thank you. Beautiful little duiker. So sorry, Kathy, getting back to your question, Kathy has asked, how often have we seen animals getting stuck in the mud, and does it happen often in man-made water holes or man-made mud wallows? So Kathy, not that often, but I think what's happened in this situation is because a lot of the animals are a lot weaker because of the drought, not a lot of food around, so it can happen. I've seen, I think 2 or 3 situations in my guiding career with animals getting stuck in mud. One was a giraffe, and now this buffalo, and I think the other one was also a buffalo. And because usually they go and they wallow in the mud, but then they're often too weak to get up and they can't get out. But again, I say that's usually only if there's a serious drought. Look at this beautiful duiker, just moving through the thicket. Look how well camouflaged it is. When it stops, it's almost impossible to see. I can hear some elephants breaking branches in the distance. And don't think you can pick up on it now. Let me see if I can't see anything here. I can hear them. One. Here we go. Oh, you might be able to just see the head just off through the little gap there. There we go. Looks like a big bull just standing feeding through there. It's amazing when you stop and you listen in the bush. You can hear so much going on around you, and often it helps to find the animals. Is if you listen, you might hear alarm calls from other animals alerting you that there's a predator around, breaking of branches from buffalo or elephant when they're walking through the bush. Okay, elephant when they're feeding, not just when they're walking, but it's always good to stop and listen. Alright, let us continue and see what else we can find. Nice to see an elephant bull in the duiker. Oh, hang on. There we go. There's a beautiful lilac-breasted roller that's just come and sat on that branch right there. Look at that. James Richard has asked us a question. James would like to know, with elephant herds when they've got young calves, does having a young calf like that affect the movement of the elephant? Yes, James, definitely. And I think all that really happens is they don't cover as large a distance as they normally would. And there goes a little squirrel across the road. So as I was saying, they may not necessarily move as far as they usually do, and also they probably walk a lot slower. We saw that herd earlier with that youngster, that young calf. The herd did move a lot slower. They didn't move as far away from the water or as quickly, and they started to feed very close by. So generally that is what would happen. I think we've now come into an area along this drainage line, and I remember last time I was here, Karula used to move through this area. That's that female leopard that we see around here quite regularly. So, who knows? Maybe we're lucky this afternoon. That would be great. I know people have been looking for her and the cubs for a while, and they haven't had any luck. She's possibly got a kill somewhere that's just well hidden and no one's been able to find her. But maybe we get lucky this afternoon. We're going to scan this little drainage line off to our right very, very carefully. and maybe we're lucky. It's really a beautiful afternoon now. The temperature's dropped slightly, and we've got these long shadows, this golden light which is coming through at the moment. So all we need is some animals standing in this golden light. It would be beautiful to see. As I mentioned to you before, you know, I really enjoy photography, and it's times like this that you really are looking for the animals when you want to get beautiful natural light. Don't have to change or alter the photo in any way. It's just naturally an amazing picture. Oh, hang on. I can hear a Diedrich cuckoo. I know some of our viewers are looking for cuckoos. That looks a bit too big for a Diedrich cuckoo. That's a grey go-away bird, but oh, it's not far. The cuckoo is a very small bird. That's the grey go-away bird you can see there. And the Diedrich cuckoo, let me try, no, sorry. Let me try to show you what one looks like quickly, because they are so beautiful. Just so you know what we are looking for, and then I'll try and do my Diedrich cuckoo impersonation. There we go, here it is. Alright. Can you see over there? Sorry, there we go. How's that? I'll put in the light for you. That bottom one right there. That one. The Diedrich cuckoo. But that green, I mean, the book doesn't do it any justice. It really is a beautiful emerald green, bright green, with that white underbelly and a bit of barring on around the rump or the chest area. They are beautiful birds. We'll see if we can find it. You never know. So, and the Diedrich cuckoo, it sounds like, oh dear, my bird impersonations again. It goes Diedrich, Diedrich, and that's, I think, how it gets its name, Diedrich's cuckoo. A lot of birds starting to call now. I can hear some francolins in the distance. I think also with the temperature cooling down like that, it's perfect. And James Bear asked if I packed my UV torch to find some scorpions this evening. I didn't, James. I don't have one with me at the moment, but I'll try and find one. But I will try and find you a scorpion without that UV torch. We'll see if I'm able to do that. We're going to carry on looking through this area and along this drainage line. While I do that, let's get an update from Taylor and see what she is up to.
Now, I've moved away just for a moment from those lions. They are still fast asleep, not showing any signs of waking up. And Brian and I thought it would be quite nice if we start surveying the area, perhaps start scouting for any animals that are potentially going to go down to drink, perhaps like some buffalo or a group of zebra or a kudu or two. And we're just going to have a little look, and then we will be going back to the Nkuhumas, depending on the pressure. But I have found an elephant who we're going to say a very quick hello to, standing just behind this big marula, but we'll get a quick glimpse now. You were wondering, as we were looking at the trunk of that elephant, if those ridges that we see serve any purpose. Now, not really that I can imagine. It's just like the rest of the body, lots of folds of skin, and that creates more surface area, which then helps cool them down in between the little folds of skin, all the shadows there. That does in fact help cool them down. I don't think it's got anything to do with the flexibility of their muscles or anything along those lines. I think it's just purely the normal folds in the skin like we see in the rest of the body. Oh, she's really going after the round leaf teat today. She doesn't seem to really be eating anything else. And of course this little one is trying to copy mom, but of course at this age it's not going to be very successful at all. Ooh. Did you hear that? You see straight away how that little one responded to mom as she started making a bit of noise. And I'm sure a little bit confused as to what all these sounds mean. But don't worry, little one. Looks like a little girl. When you get big and strong, you'll know exactly what they mean. Trying desperately to move that branch around. No, not winning. Going to leave it alone now. Look at the beautiful light catching that tiny Ellie's eyes. That might even be photo worthy. It's lovely light on that little elephant's head. Beautiful golden light. Now this will be quite interesting. You can see mom has actually just used the luxury bathrooms. Now something we see quite often is with these young elephants is because they are not able just yet to feed on vegetation, sometimes we see them eating mom's feces, which has been partially digested, and of course it's quite soft and easy for them to handle. So let's see if this little one perhaps does decide to do that. No, leaving the lovely fresh dung alone and keeping right in front next to mom. Oh, careful you don't go too far. We are so lucky at the moment to be seeing all these little Ellies, aren't we? You know that they're my favorite animal. One of my favorite things, and I know it's one of Brian's favorite things too, is to see the little elephants charge. Oh, I want to try and go back a little bit to get a better view of this elephant who looks like it's going to take a seat. There may be another little gap for us. We'll just sit and wait patiently. Hello, little one. It's okay. Don't mind us. Still getting used to the sound of the vehicles starting and stopping. But within a few weeks, it'll be so accustomed to us, it'll not be bothered at all. Actually, no, I'm going to change my mind. I think it's going to be quite interesting when these little ones start to realize that we are not really anything to worry about. And when they start to see if they can get reactions out of us by trumpeting at us, by shaking their heads at us. Oh, look at the runs. You're getting a little dust storm at the back. Careful, slow down, little one. You're going to exhaust yourself. And I'm sure you all know that it is James's birthday today, and we've sent him many ridiculous happy birthday videos and voice notes and you name it, and I'm sure that you have all done the same thing, posting on his various social medias wishing him the happy birthday. Now Gracie, who is one of our favorite viewers of the show. Hello, Gracie. Gracie says that would be a perfect present for James. I think James would love to have a baby elephant, but unfortunately this little one has now disappeared out of view, and it's really getting nice and cool now as the sun drops behind the horizon. Right, let's go to Byron, and I quote Rebecca here, who is on top of the world.
So I have just come up onto this large termite mound to have a look around and scan the area to see if I can't find any animals from up here. We haven't had too much luck in the drainage lines, and it's a beautiful view up here too. But why I wanted to come up onto this specific termite mound is it's massive. Firstly, I mean, you can see it really is huge. And these termite mounds are so interesting. They are incredible. This is basically a living organism that I'm standing on now. There's so many working parts to it. It is unbelievable. This looks like a very old one, but I must admit this does still look active. Now the reason I say that is it is so bare around here. There's a bit of vegetation growing on it, but this section, and especially this section over here, does still look fairly new. It's very dry and it is quite hard, but when I knock on it I can feel it, or I can hear that it's hollow. And also it crumbles quite easily on the outside. So that's a sign that it is a fairly newish addition to this termite mound, and you can see it is definitely different to the rest of the termite mound lower down. So termites actually need a lot of moisture. So everything that we see out of here extends equally as far underground. And the reason for that is so they can get to the water table below, so they got some moisture to help support the termite mound. Now what happens is, this is all made up of termite feces, termite saliva, and obviously the soil that they excavate to build this. It really is incredibly interesting. Now this soil is very fertile because of that, and that is why you get a lot of trees and grasses growing on the termite mound once the termites have moved out. It's very, very fertile soil, and occasionally you get these massive trees, the jackalberries for one, and also the weeping boer bean, which is another tree that you do get around here. The scotia, there's a spider hunting wasp that's just landed or flying around. And what happens is the animals like baboons or monkeys will come sit, feed on the fruit, they drop the seeds, and they germinate very quickly in these termite mounds, and they'll grow out because of this fertile soil. But what I find so fascinating about these mounds is how the termites are able to regulate the temperature through thermoregulation. And what happens is the termites, because they are so active, now you must remember, in a termite mound this size, there's a queen, possibly one or two queens that are about this size, and they just lay eggs. They'll lay thousands of eggs daily, and the rest of the termites, the workers and these soldiers, they're the ones that then protect and work to keep this termite mound working. So the worker termites, all that they do is they bring food to the mound and keep it going. They then look after the eggs, take them into incubation shelves where they are then incubated until they eventually hatch, and then they go into the system to work for the termite mound to protect the colony. The soldiers, they then come out and they'll protect the termite mound if it gets broken, or if they get any animals coming in to potentially try and feed on them. These soldiers come out, they've got very sharp pinchers, and they'll be able to bite, and they also secrete a formic acid to try and deter whatever predator it is that is breaking into the termite mound. And this whole termite mound is basically made up of a number of chimneys, and the reason for that is that helps regulate the temperature. So there's a constant airflow within this termite mound, and they're able to regulate the temperature at about 32 to 34 degrees Celsius. And it's incredible. If you find a fresh opening on a termite mound, if you put your hand over it, you can actually feel the warmth and the heat coming out of there. So it's amazing how what they do is in summer, when it is very, very hot, they'll open the mound to try to circulate cool air through it, and in winter when it's cold, they'll close it up to keep that warmth inside. It is really, really fascinating, and I love seeing termite mounds like this because they are so interesting. And once the termites eventually leave, then you'll get animals like snakes, probably another elephant or two moving through there. But let us carry on.
Felt like what I felt like this morning when everything was evading me. I can promise you that it's not a nice feeling having the animals just avoid you at all costs. Now, I want to find a cuckoo this afternoon as one of the other things that we must do before the sun goes down. Obviously, we can only try. And I've been listening out very carefully to see if I can hear any. Now, I know Byron earlier attempted to do a Deirdre's cuckoo call. Should I see if I can better his? And I'm sure he must have whistled it, and we'll perhaps see who has the best cuckoo call. Let's see how I go. That is my Deirdre call. It's not very good. I'm not particularly enthusiastic when it comes to bird calls, but we can try some more. But maybe we must challenge Byron Byron while he's here over the next few weeks to bird calling competitions. Let's see if he gets on board. Maybe we'll surprise him tomorrow morning, so don't tell him just yet, but we will try and trick him. Oh, I've got my favorite kind of roadblock just up ahead. We're going to head on over to them, but it looks like a lovely herd of elephants in the distance, which is super exciting. And I think we did leave the Nkuhumas just at the right time, just to let some of the other guides come in and have a look at the sleeping lions. And then Brian and I have a very important plan. We told these elephants to meet us exactly on this road, and we're going to spend not more than 15 minutes with them, and then we're going to do a loop. And we're going to try and get back into that Nkuhuma sighting. Oh, this is lovely. They were actually walking towards us. This is a fantastic. You should see them now. I mean, check. Yes, you can see them. Oh, this is going to be amazing. Going to just scouring for the perfect spot. Now, we're looking at this beautiful big herd of elephants right in front of us. They're, of course, all over, and I know, Donna, you are wondering if there's a possibility that we could get an overpopulation of elephants, and yes, we can. That is the biggest concern, and it's the concern that is on all the minds of the conservationists in the area, is how to control the population of elephants. Now, unfortunately, previous times they've done all sorts of mechanisms to try and curb, from culling populations, from trying to relocate populations. Now, we obviously don't want to have to go back to trying to start to cull the animals again, but unfortunately it does happen. And that's where this Limpopo Transfrontier National Park comes in, which allows them to move into other areas and hopefully repopulate sort of war-stricken areas like Mozambique. And that's what the whole idea around it is. But let's have a look at this beautiful herd that is coming towards us. The light is absolutely magnificent now. It is truly golden hour. And it seems like a lovely family. There's elephants of various ages here, walking down the road towards us. There's a mom and a little one in the distance. Actually, two moms and two little ones. They don't seem to be quite as tiny, though, as the ones we just saw. Now we're seeing all these elephants with all the teeny tiny babies, and I know that Ashley from Missouri was wondering, is this sort of common, because we know that elephants don't have a particular breeding season. Now, I don't think it was planned. Obviously their digestive period that's not the word I'm looking for. Their gestation period, of course, is quite long, that of 22 months, and they only have calves every 4 to 5 years, of course, depending on what's going on with the weather. Now, I think it was just fortunate for that mother, but I've seen young calves being born in the middle of winter at the sort of worst of the period. So I think it's sort of luck when it comes to the elephants, unlike how the impala strategically plan it, and the wildebeest and the kudu and all those lovely animals. Yeah, absolutely stunning. I can't believe it. If you compare photos from 3 months ago, you would be so shocked to see how dry the bush was. And I saw some photos from the southern section of the sands, and it really does indeed look like a desert. There is barely any grass. Perhaps after the little bit of rain that they've had, there might be some shoots coming through now, but there's most certainly hardly any green leaves on any of the trees. It's quite sad. So it's really, really refreshing and to see all the lovely new vegetation. Oh my goodness, we've got Ellie's right here. What I'll do is I'll try and turn my bum slightly. Should I do that for you? Let me do that so you can see what's happening right behind us. Hello. Look at this. Sorry, I've just angled us slightly different now. They're right behind us, feeding, trying to pick those lovely new green sprigs. There we go, got some. Picking them all off, and then off she goes. And here come the two little calves. following their moms. They almost look to be very similar age, and they've definitely had a mud bath earlier today. Oh, a little trumpet from an elephant. Now, speaking of these little ones, I'm just listening to the Ellies chatting away to each other. Hannah, who is 9 years old, is wondering if elephants are born with teeth. Now, Hannah, I don't think so. I think very much like any young animal, as the teeth start to come through after a few weeks. So I think they are very gummy when they're first born with a big tongue. But I've also never had the opportunity to look inside a young elephant's mouth before. They are just coming and coming. They're not stopping. Here comes 3. Have a look at these ones. Look, it's coming right up towards us. This is quite beautiful. Here comes a young, looks like a young bull. Are you a young bull? No, you're a young cow. There we go. You see, even I still get confused and I have to double check, and I'm not even embarrassed one little bit about that. Sometimes it's difficult from front on and when they're so young to tell what their sex is from the get-go. Oh, beautiful. Are you going to Buffelshoek Dam? Look at that lovely action with their trunks. Denise, I'm so glad that you're enjoying these beautiful sightings that we've been having. We actually have been really spoilt for elephant sightings. Look at those beautiful feet. Look how they work. See how when they step, they sort of coil like a spring, and then they sort of splay out when they put all the pressure on their feet. And it's just amazing to me that they are able to move quietly, more quietly than what I could ever. Dubs Racing, speaking about feet, we're wondering if there's any purpose to the elephants having round feet versus hoofs. Now, I think it's because of their size. I don't think a hoof would be able to support the weight of an elephant. Remember, they can get quite large. They can get in excess of almost 6 tons, a really big elephant bull. A cow would probably weigh on average about 4.5 tons, 4,500 kilograms. So a wider sort of circle or oval shape would work much better for the surface area. Firstly, it's not just putting pressure on one point, and if they are walking through thick sand, I think it definitely makes it a lot easier to go through that when you're an animal of that size. Isn't this such an amazing afternoon? We have been so spoiled today. Oh, and the breeze is beautiful now. It is really lovely. I'm absolutely loving it now. Oh, there's some more elephants coming across that are about to cross with some young elephants. Let's perhaps have a little look and watch them as they come. I think they're going to come straight towards us. Still very quiet. You can see it's a little bit warm. All the elephants still flapping their ears around. Now, this is a younger calf. This should maybe be around almost a month old, and I think it's the same for the one that's crisscrossing the road now too. They seem to be of a relative age. Here we go. Another little one, and a tuskless female, which is a common genetic mutation that we see amongst the African elephants. Obviously more common in females than in the boys. This is just absolutely wonderful. We're going to leave the elephant shortly though, because I do want to try and get a position into that lion sighting again. But wasn't that absolutely amazing? We are really, really lucky to have had such fantastic sightings of these giant creatures that roam the earth. and I hope you appreciate every little moment that we get to spend with the lions. But I think let's go back to Byron and see if the animals have been a little bit more cooperative.
Look at this, these beautiful kudu bulls moving through this drainage line. Look at the horns. It's fantastic to be able to see them. I'm so glad Taylor spent some time with those elephants for you. She enjoys them just as much as I do, if not more. But you know, we found these big kudu bulls moving through here, and they are browsing, feeding off the leaves off the trees in this drainage line that we are parked in at the moment. Look at that beautiful, what they call a chevron, between the eyes of the kudu. There are a few theories behind that, and the one, and I think it's probably the most plausible, but the theory is that white marking, similar to some of the nocturnal animals, it reflects light to the eyes, especially when they're moving through these dark drainage lines in thicker areas, because the kudu are browsers. They prefer areas like this, so it allows them to see a lot better. If we have a look just in front of this kudu, there's another antelope here. There we go. That is an Inyala, the male Inyala. And what is so great that we've got these two animals together is look at the white markings on the face of the Inyala. They look very similar to that of that big male kudu. And probably for similar reasons. Look at those ears also listening out. These male Inyala are beautiful antelope. Really, really enjoy seeing them. And see, notice how their horns also spiral slightly, not as much as the big kudu bulls, but the Inyala bulls also have a spiral in their horn, and you can see those beautiful white tips at the top of the horn, and that's usually a sign of age. So this is a full-grown adult male, and quite an old male. I'm not exactly sure how old, probably around 10 to 12 years, I would guess. It is always tough, as I've said before, to gauge the age of animals, but what a magnificent animal. See how he's browsing too, feeding on those little leaves. So interestingly enough, the kudu, the Inyala, and another antelope known as the bushbuck are all related. They are all found in the same family of antelope, same group. And the scientific name for that is Tragelaphus or Tragelaphus, and these three antelope all fall under that group. And the reason is all the males have spiral horns, so they're all slightly similar that way. And all these antelope also have white markings on the body. Some are more prominent than the others, but they do all have white markings on the body. You can see that male Inyala has some white stripes just down the side of the body, very faint. The females, however, are much different in color, and I'm hoping, okay, he's just gone and hidden behind the bush there, but the female Inyala is very, very different. She has got a reddish coloration, a reddish brown coloration, and she's got very prominent white stripes down the body. But all the kudu also have very faint white stripes. The Inyala, the bushbuck, they've got little white dots on the rump of their body. They don't really have the white stripes like the kudu and Inyala do. The other thing is, excuse me, and the other thing is their alarm call is all very similar. All these antelope, as opposed to the snorting which we are used to hearing from impala, for example, the Inyala actually give off this very loud bark, like a bow, bow, if they see any potential threat or predator. And so the kudu, the Inyala, and the bushbuck all give off this loud bark, and that's their alarm call to alert each other and to alert other animals that there is potential danger in and around this area. So it's lovely to see the two big bulls, the kudu bulls and the Inyala bull, all in the same area. Another interesting thing is that with our groups of antelope that we have in Africa, the larger animals, the larger antelope species, the male and females are all called bulls, for the males and cows for the females. The smaller antelope, however, the males are called rams and the females are called ewes. Now, the Inyala is the exception, and that's where the break comes between the larger antelope and the smaller antelope. That's the benchmark. So what happens is the male Inyala is known as the bull, and the female Inyala is known as the ewe. Everything smaller, ram and ewe, and everything bigger, bull and cow. So that's quite interesting. Anyway, lovely to see them. They seem to have gone hiding into the thicket. So let us continue and see what else we can find. Sorry. While we're trying to find some more, Taylor's found something else for you to look at. She's really keeping us going this afternoon.
Don't feel too bad, Byron. This one wasn't particularly difficult to find this afternoon. We've just managed to have one last look at this beautiful sunset. Isn't it lovely? It's obviously going to disappear behind those thick clouds, but isn't that magnificent? A view of the Drakensberg Mountains in the background and the various clouds, which is quite lovely to see. This is very, very, very special. I may even have to take a photo. I hope you take lots of screen grabs of this, because this is beautiful light. And I feel as though with the thunderstorms that are going to be heading our way in the next few weeks, hopefully, I'm obviously being optimistic here, I think we're going to see fewer and fewer sunsets and sunrises if it's overcast. So better make the most of it. Isn't that absolutely lovely? Oh, sorry, Debbie, I just clicked in my head what you tried to ask me now. Sorry about that. I had a moment of my brain relapsed there. So, like Debbie says, Debbie, what a wonderful thought. You're very kind. Says that we should have a moment where we enjoy this sunset. I think we should have Brian give some background music. What do you think, Brian?
I guess I could.
I think we'll have a few moments here and we'll listen to the lovely tunes of Brian and the Magpie Strikes. Happy birthday. Happy birthday, James. We hope that you have a wonderful day in your name. There we go. There's my tune, my song. Happy birthday, James. Happy 40th to be exact. We hope that you are having a fantastic afternoon and down with your family. And we hope that your sunset is as spectacular as the one we are witnessing. Have a look at this now. Now it's really becoming quite special as the sun is poking out through the clouds. One last time, I've got to snap a shot of that. That is just too gorgeous. Oh my goodness. My camera doesn't do these photos justice, I'm afraid. We'll take a long one. That is so beautiful. I hope you're all doing the same. I hope you're doing screenshots. I expect to see lots of them a little bit later. I think we're going to spend the next 1 minute and 30 seconds watching the sun as it disappears. And I think we'll just sit here quietly and enjoy. Oh, there's lots going on. We're not going to watch the sunset. Let's very quickly go over to Byron.
Just wanted to show you this beautiful bird quickly. I haven't seen one for a while. This is a purple roller. So not like the lilac-breasted roller that we're used to seeing. This beautiful purple roller. Look at the color difference. Actually not sure where the color purple comes from. I think when the light hits it, there is a little bit more purple than this dusky brown coloration that we can see. A dark purple with the white markings. What might fly? Ooh, a shake of dust. Probably been dust bathing if all that dust came off of it. And there it goes. Oh, gone. Wonderful. Well, that was nice. Something different, a new bird for some of you perhaps, a purple roller. That's lovely to see. Let's just have a look. Wow, the sunset is amazing. I know Taylor's been showing it to you. It is incredible. See if we can get a little glimpse of it quickly through there. Look at that. Through some of these trees. Look at those clouds. You know, we mentioned it yesterday, and yesterday afternoon we also had a beautiful sunset. When there's some clouds in the sky, I mean, it's just really beautiful. I'm almost speechless. I think, how do you describe something like this? It's very, very difficult. But you can see that color and the rays glancing through the clouds. It really is beautiful. I said it yesterday and again today, this is usually the time of the safari where we stop with our guests and maybe have something to drink, some refreshments and a light snack just to watch the sunset, have a conversation about the drive. One of my favorite times of the day, this late afternoon as the sun's setting, and then the early mornings are also fantastic. But while we carry on, I think Taylor's got a glimpse of the sun disappearing behind the mountain.
You are literally just catching the absolute last of this incredible sunset. Look at those amazing colors. Look at the clouds now, how they're really starting to catch the light. Oh, wow. At one point it looked like it was the moon, and Rebecca in Final Control says that it looks like an oil painting, and I think that is a beautiful way to describe what we're looking at now. The sun is just going behind the Drakensberg Mountains. I have only got a big smile for you. My heart is very happy with the afternoon that we've had so far. Isn't that spectacular? Look at that. And the clouds were just in the perfect position tonight. Everything fell right in place. This is lovely. I'm running out of adjectives to use to try and describe this sighting. It's so special. Here all the birds as well, giving one last call. This is really paradise. Not one unnatural sound, I suppose, other than the sound of my voice. I count every single day as to how lucky I am to spend my life in the wilderness in Africa. I wouldn't have picked a different path if I was offered one. I would choose this over and over again. And there it goes. As quick and as beautiful as that sunset was, look how fast it disappeared behind that beautiful mountain range. That is lovely. Right, I think it's time though to try and get back into that Nkuhuma sighting. I promise not to get distracted too much more now. I'll need to have a very quick chat on the radio. So while I have a little conversation with whoever's there now, let's go to Byron and see if he's having as much trouble with the flies as I am this afternoon.
No trouble with the flies, because we've got some fly swatters here. Look at the zebra walking through there, and they're just disappearing. I think we're slowly starting to redeem ourselves a little bit here. We were struggling to find some animals this afternoon. But yeah, kudu, nyala, and now zebra, a pair of zebra just walking through into the thicket. And watch that tail every now and then swishing from backwards and forwards to get rid of the flies. It really was a fantastic sunset too, and nice to see some animals just in the dusk. And enjoying some of those green grass shoots we've been speaking about the last 2 days that I've definitely noticed. Last time I was in this area there was very little. Little grass, little vegetation. So slowly but surely it's creeping in, but we need more rain. So hopefully soon there'll be a lot more food around and this area will be very, very lush. Few birds calling in the distance. I remember when I was training as a guide, we would often sit and you know, I'm not sure, some of you might remember, I've mentioned it before, but James and I actually go quite far back, and James actually trained me when I started guiding. So any mistakes that I make, it's because of James. But James and I and a few of our friends, when we sat and we trained together, we would sit on a vehicle, close our eyes any time of the day, usually mornings and afternoons, and then we would try and remember and see how many birds we could hear calling. We'd write them down, and then we'd compare notes and see how many different birds. And I've just been doing that now, just listening out, and there's an African hoopoe calling in the distance, the magpie shrike with that beautiful long black tail. There've been some francolins calling, all in the distance and all around. It's wonderful to hear all these different birds calling this time of the afternoon, the last kind of calls before they end up going to sleep for the evening or going to rest. So fork-tailed drongo also calling. All right. The zebra have just moved off further into the thicket. So let's see what else we can find. And then tonight we need to try again for a chameleon, scorpion, and we mentioned it yesterday, and I'm going to try my best. No one's found a scorpion, a chameleon this season yet, or going into summer just yet. So there's a bit of a competition to see who can find the first chameleon in the evenings. Great temperature at the moment. It's really cooled down quite a lot from this afternoon, from that heat that we had. Nice cool breeze while we're driving now, so it really is lovely. Obviously with losing some of the light now, it's a little bit harder to spot animals, so we're looking very, very carefully. James Richard has asked an interesting question about the woodlands kingfisher. We're all waiting for them to migrate back down into southern Africa for the summer, and James would like to know, or he wonders if they're nocturnal or diurnal migrants. Now James, I'm actually not sure, but those birds generally are diurnal, they're active during the day, so I would assume that they'd fly during the day when they are migrating back south for the summer. We've got a few bets out to see when these birds are going to return. Trying to guess the date, so hopefully someone will win it. I think I said the 4th of November. And Eggsy, we haven't got a prediction from you yet. What do you think? He's going to do some research and then get back to us. That's very clever. I don't think anyone else said that. Everyone else just took a guess. Red-chested cuckoo calling in the distance. I know Taylor said she's going to challenge me to a bird call contest. I'm certain I'm going to win. I might head back towards Vuyatela Waterhole, just see if there's anything hanging around that area that's maybe gone to drink. Seems to be a little bit quiet in this area at the moment. Well, I say that, but we're still so fortunate we've got all these birds around us calling. You know, I always say even though we're not seeing anything happening in front of us, there's always something going on in the bush. There's always something happening around us, even if we don't see it. Still a bit of that sunset in the sky, last bit of light hitting the clouds. Really was a wonderful sunset this afternoon. Beautiful little waterhole just off to the right here. And I wonder when this filled up, because there's a bit of water in there. It's enough for a decent mud wallow and for animals to drink from. I'm surprised we don't see any animals around this immediate area at the moment. Looks like a perfect little spot. But I'm scanning and I don't see anything. I think you might get a buffalo or something wandering through and wallowing in the mud. Maybe some elephants splashing themselves. Okay, I think we'll find a leopard walking out of the bush somewhere. It's cooled down nicely. Maybe we're lucky and Karula sticks her head out, that female leopard that we see quite regularly around here. I haven't seen her since I've been back, so I'd love to see that female and see how big the cubs have got. Last time I was here, they were still very young, so I'd love to see how they are doing. It sounds like they've been very successful. She's been successful in raising them, so you never know, she could pop her head out sometime. See a lot of elephant damage now with the bush being so dry. You can see really all these broken trees where the elephants have pushed them over or broken the branches to feed on them. And it's really clear in these dry conditions. You can see all the devastation. But the bush recovers again once the rainfall arrives. I'm going to continue searching for some animals. Taylor's found a male animal of sorts to show you.
I told you we'd come back to the Nkuhumas, and it looks as though they're starting to wake up a little bit. Like I said, it has been cooling down lovely the entire afternoon. And the sun has dropped very, very quickly. There's very little light left now. Oh, there's a big yawn. Now I'm wondering what on earth these lions are going to get up to now. Having a good gaze at the sky and a little sniff. Oh, life is so tough being a little lion cub. Had to sleep all day and eat. And now they want me to get up and start moving around. How terrible. Well, they all seem to have all spread out now, all the lions. I can just count 1, 2 lionesses and a few cubs, and both males are around, and I suspect the others are down. Perhaps they're going to go and have a drink, I'm not sure. But we can't go down there just yet. Now, we had a better view of Mfumo's face earlier today, and I know that Ashley was wondering if it's getting any better. It is, but very, very slowly. It's not going to be a very quick process. Sorry, not Ashley. I made Ashley up. That name just popped into my head. I meant to say Jojo, of course, and you can see why those names are so similar that it's easy to get the two of them confused. My apologies. It's all the excitement after today. Now, that wound is going to get a lot better, but it is going to take some time. It's going to take many, many months for that hole to close. I mean, ideally, if that was on a human, if it had a couple of stitches, it would heal very, very quickly. But unfortunately, we let nature take its courses, especially if it's not to do with human interference. We have to, of course, let these animals heal naturally. And he's fine. He doesn't seem to be too bothered at all. Occasionally, it's a little bit swollen every now and then, but I mean, that's expected when you've got a big hole in your face. But I noticed today, though, after yesterday afternoon, it doesn't seem like that hole is as deep anymore. It seems to have got less deep now. And now it's just the tissue just needs to heal and grow back across the big gape. And we'll keep monitoring him and see how he does. But if the tables do turn and he gets a serious infection, well, as unfortunate as what it is part of nature and the natural selection process of keeping only the strongest genetics around. But this is beautiful. There we go, having a little stretch, really waking up now. Let's see who you are going to go and bother. Oh, well, you know they must be exhausted if Mom's tail isn't even tempting. Or whichever lioness that one is. You see she had her tail right in the face of that little cub on the left, and it wasn't even tempted once to take a swipe at it. Now that would be beautiful. James Richard, thank you. I agree with you and I like your optimism. So let's keep our fingers crossed. James thinks that if the lions are not going to hunt for us, well, then let's hope that they give us a big roar that will blow your speakers. Now I hope for that. That would be quite nice. We're only hearing the lions roaring in the distance at the moment. Over the last few days, now I think I heard some elephants in the distance. I'm just double checking. You can see she's looking and listening at something, and I think it was an elephant. And we did see some buffalo a little bit further away from here, probably about 200 or 300 meters away. So they could be coming closer, but I'm a little bit uncertain. Isn't it just nice to sit and listen to those cicadas? Oh, this is really lovely and spectacular. I'm just keeping an eye out to see if I can see where the other lions have gone. And hopefully they'll wake up and actually go and have a drink. Wouldn't that be nice? If we can't get a roar, if we can't watch them hunt, I think they owe us for being so patient this afternoon to go and have something to drink. Everybody's waking up now. It's amazing how it just takes one to get up and lead the group, and then they all sort of follow each other like sheep. Now, we're going to just have to watch their bums disappear, unfortunately. And we'll reposition in hopefully a moment. But let's go back to Byron, though, and see how the nocturnal creatures are perhaps treating him.
They're not treating us too well just yet, Taylor. I'm looking, and I've got the spotlight out, searching very, very carefully. Let's see if I can find something. Ooh. I'm just going to wait a second. I think I've spotted something there. Hold on a second. But Sylvia in Oregon has mentioned that and asked us that since chameleons blend into the environment, how is it that we're able to spot them after dark? So, Sylvia, the thing is the chameleons, and generally, and it comes with a bit of experience and time in the bush, and I learned this from the tracker I used to work with. When you're driving, you're shining with the spotlight, the chameleons actually have a slightly different shape to the leaves, and they're a slightly lighter color green. It's hard to believe, but trust me, it actually works, and you're able to spot them, but it's not easy. Now, I just want to have a look. I thought I saw something up here. I'm just going to look carefully. And just shine the spotlight again. No, I thought I spotted a little scorpion, but I don't see anything. Let's carry on. I'm going to see if I can find one for you and see what else we've got in store. Maybe a chameleon. So we'll keep having a good look around here. Some other people on game drive, on this sunset drive. So now this takes quite a bit of concentration, so I've got to look very, very carefully in these trees and through the leaves. See if we can't find something for you. I'd like to see a bush baby too, that would be great. Haven't seen one for quite some time. Ray has asked us an interesting question about the bats that we see in this area, and how big are some of the bats that we get here, and how many do we see here. So we actually see quite a few different species of bats, a lot of epauletted fruit bats, and some other little species of bats too. But the largest, I think in this area, some of the larger bats are about this size. Roughly, can you see, there we go, roughly around that size. But some of the large fruit bats in Africa, some get to, I mean, they're really, really big. Their size is about that, if I'm not mistaken, maybe a little bit bigger, so they can get really large. We generally get the small ones, and a lot of the time you see these little bats roughly around that size. They're the ones flying around most of the time. All right. Cat Clark has said she'd be really happy if I could find a scorpion. And if I do, I will be happy too, that's for sure. Hang on a second. Sometimes I need these binoculars just to have a look in the trees. No, nothing there. Don't worry, it's too soon to panic, like I always say. Possibly find one very soon. I'm going to continue my search for these little animals. While I do that, those lions sound like they are thirsty.
Isn't this the most perfect picture? Sunset, lions drinking from the watering hole. It has turned out to be an absolute beautiful day here on Djuma Private Game Reserve. We are so lucky. Now, they're having a drink of not the cleanest water, unfortunately. With all the rhinos, the hippo, the buffalo, the elephants that have been coming in here over the past couple of weeks having a drink and making the water a bit dirty, but they don't seem to mind at all. You can see the little ones getting close to this male, and you can see what I mean by him not minding the little cubs jumping all over him. Let's have a look. There they are. Hello. Not bothered at all. One day I'm going to be big like you. This is beautiful. Now I know the light is fading, but unfortunately we're not going to put a spotlight on all these cubs here. And look at all these lions, how they're grouping up together to have a little drink. This is lovely, peaceful, a well-deserved cool down after a hot, lazy day. And I know it's seeming a little bit dark to try and take screen grabs. Like I said, we aren't unfortunately going to put the lights on here. We're going to keep them dimmed and just enjoy the natural light. Look at that. That is beautiful. The other Birmingham has decided to stay behind. He hasn't moved an inch. Perhaps he was so fast asleep he didn't even notice that the others had moved off. Here we go. It looks like they're finishing up now on their drinks, not wanting to get their paws too dirty. You can see the little ones very unsure about the mud. Now this is the moment where we need those buffalo to come down over the top of the bank and then be surprised by the Nkuhumas and the Birmingham. But we can only dream and hope that things like that would work out in our favor. I suppose there's no love lost, though, with the incredible sighting that we've just had. This is lovely. And I know I'm going a little bit quiet. I'm really just taking in the last of the light and reflecting upon today. Right, now you can see it's unfortunately getting a little bit too dark, and like I said, I don't want to spotlight these cubs unnecessary. Yesterday was a little bit of an exception with all the excitement that was about, but we'll leave them in peace this evening. Unfortunately, coming down to the last couple of minutes of the show. So myself and Brian and the ice cream thumb, I'm surprised that it hasn't melted completely with this heat. We wish you well. We hope you have a good night's sleep. We hope you have a great cup of coffee or breakfast, whatever you're planning on doing for the rest of your day. And we'll see you tomorrow for the sunrise safari. But let's go back across to Byron and see how the last light is treating him.
Thank you so much, Taylor, and I'm so glad you got to see those lions drinking at the end here. And I hope you really enjoyed that. That is fantastic. It's great to see them. I'm still looking very carefully for any chameleons or scorpions. I'm not going to give up just yet. So Stephanie has asked an interesting question about the bush babies and what they eat. So Stephanie, what they really enjoy and what they prefer is feeding on the gum off those acacia trees. Those really thorny trees, they secrete a gum or a liquid, and the bush babies love feeding on that. Just hear a bird calling over here. Sounds like a drongo and it doesn't sound too happy. Just trying to see if I can see anything. No. I don't see anything. I can't even see the bird. I'm looking very carefully, but no. Maybe it's spotted a little owl. You know, you get these little scops owls and pill-spotted owls, and they come out and they're a little bit more active around this time of the day, and other birds will alarm call at them, try and chase them, even though there's no direct threat, but it's still a potential predator, so they try to chase them away. My eyes are playing tricks on me a little bit. I want to find a scorpion or chameleon so badly that I check every leaf very, very carefully. But also it's still very dry, so it's not it's not that easy, because we need moisture. Those animals, because of the chameleon being a reptile, we need the moisture. And also the scorpions hunt other insects, so after a lot of rain, other insects become more active, and then that's when those scorpions will come out and try and hunt them. Usually you find these chameleons sitting on the edges of these little branches on the trees, on the shrubs. Usually the ones that are very green, so they can blend in quite nicely and hide away. Let's just check this tree carefully. Come on, surely there's something in here. Nope, nothing. Oh, there's a little scrub hare. There we go. I don't want to shine on it too much. There, you can just see it. Oh, wonderful. Look at that. There it goes. You see, I'm not shining directly on it, just a little bit off it, so I don't hurt its eyes. But they are nocturnal, so their eyes are a little bit different to all the other animals. But still, we don't want to harm their eyes in any way. At least we can just see them over there. Beautiful little scrub hare. and we'll leave him for the evening. Hopefully it doesn't get eaten by an owl or perhaps an African wildcat. Anyway, we're reaching the end of the show. I hope you've had a wonderful, wonderful time. We will see you for tomorrow's sunrise drive. Thank you, everyone.